Welcome to Rainbow Soul Vodcast, where our Soulstrology comes forward to help you manage your everyday life, with forecasts and deep dives on natal charts and queer perspectives on the planets, transits, and more. A group discussion about upcoming transits with tips on how to read these transits in your own chart. Hollis offers years of wisdom and natal chart knowledge with Bright Hawk's positive perspective and Lacrosse's inquiry. We offer the complete queer astrology experience. Welcome to Rainbow Soul. Please help us by subscribing, sharing, and commenting and reviewing. You can also learn where else Rainbow Soul is offered on our website at rainbowsoul.show.
Welcome to Rainbow Soul Soulstrology Forecast. I'm Hollis Taylor, and I am one of your astrologers here. And, I do lots of different types of reading, including the astrology of death, which can help you if you've recently had someone die in your life. And otherwise, I also do natal charts and teaching and mentorship. If you're trying to learn and you just need somebody to help you look at your chart, I do that. And so you can check out my website, which is in the description below. I also do mediumship and tarot and lots of other things.
Hi there, I'm Bright Hawk, artist, author, musician, storyteller. My book, The Dancing Hippo, if you're looking for a great gift for anyone on your list and you want something original and different and you want to support local artists, well, I have the book for you. The Dancing Hippo happens to be a really fun, really beautiful story about resiliency. You can learn more about it at brighthawkproductions.com.
Mm-hmm.
And you can also learn about our friend Lacrosse.
Lacrosse. Hi, I'm Lacrosse Ortiz. I'm the creator of the Fool's Journey Color Journals. Just basically keywords to help you learn the tarot. Pretty simple. You can find me on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook.
Fabulous.
And all the links are in the description for everything.
Yeah, all of those things. Yeah, although I'm not sure our social media is, but we could add that. All right. So I want to invite you, before we get going, to just take a minute to sit and ground in your body. Maybe put your feet on the floor. Close your eyes if you can. And take a few deep breaths. And just allow your body to feel weightless. You can start to imagine your body just floating freely in the universe with all the stars around you and the moon glowing. And as you're floating around the universe, gently, you just start to notice that there is a constellation coming out of the sky, out of the stars towards you. And that constellation looks like an arrow. And this constellation is known as Sagittarius. And as Sagittarius gets a little bit bigger and comes out of the sky towards you, you can feel the essence of Sagittarius. The essence of freedom, the feeling of a charming, positive, freedom-loving energy. Sagittarius is philosophical, positive, hopeful, and reminds us that there are beautiful lights even within the dark. And it happens at some of the darkest time of the year. Sagittarius season is during the darkest time of the year, between mid-November to the mid of December, late December, and the brightest for the northern hemisphere. And Sagittarius brings the brightest light out of the sky. And that is when our sun, the brightest light, begins to spend a little bit more time in the northern hemisphere. A little bit, the days get a little bit longer, and we are reminded that the light will return. And that is Sagittarius. Sagittarius reminding us that the light will return. That there is always light even within all of the darkness. And as Sagittarius, as the arrow constellation turns into the centaur, which is a horse with a human body at the top, the centaur pulls back the arrow, and without thinking about aiming, just shoots off the arrow to land wherever it is meant to be. And that is the essence of Sagittarius. Ready, fire, aim.
Hey!
It's okay.
I resemble that.
It's okay. Because the thing about Sagittarius is that it always sees the light in everything. So no matter where they land, they are always very happy about it.
I resemble that.
And Sagittarius reminds us that there can always be a light in something, always a little bit of good, even in the worst of days. Sagittarius reminds us to smile, to have fun, and to find our own freedom in things. That is the essence of Sagittarius. And as the Sagittarian constellation pulls back into the sky, we are left with a hopeful, positive feeling for our lives going forward, for this day, and we find gratitude for this day and for our lives. And I encourage you now to feel your bottom on the seat, to feel your feet on the floor, wiggle your fingers and your toes, take a deep breath. Open your eyes and come into the here and now. Good job, Bright Hawk. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Well, I'm so glad. I'm so glad to be here today. And I just want to say that we're in the middle of Sagittarius season, in case you didn't know. It is ruled by Jupiter. So it's very philosophical. And it's set up that way. It's part of the reason why we celebrate Yule and Christmas, is because the light returns to us. And so some people say it's the rebirth of the sun. They don't just mean the sun, S-O-N, like God's son, but they also mean like the sun in the sky, because the days get darker and darker and darker until you get to December 20th, and then after that it starts to get lighter and lighter and lighter. And a couple hundred years ago, probably more than that, it was probably like December 25th when the sun started to be brighter. And so, but the day kind of moves over the years, especially in long periods of time, and that's why Yule and Christmas are not on the same day, because Yule actually follows the sun, and Christmas just picks a day. So it's just a different. Isn't there also when is Hanukkah? Do you know the dates for Hanukkah, Lacrosse?
I think it's in December 2nd or 3rd this year. Every year it changes, but they do go according a different calendar.
They go based on the moon, though. Yeah, and it is
that
the
would be
return
the
of
new moon then, right?
I'm pretty
Did you
sure.
put the new moon in December?
Probably, and it probably ends. Oh no, I guess it wouldn't. 8 days is not enough. Yeah, because Hanukkah's 8 days long, right? But it is a return of the light as well.
Exactly. It's celebrating the light, the lasting of light, the oil that burnt in the temple.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it like the miracle of it lasting 8 days.
Right.
And then, so it is light.
Mm-hmm. Of the miracle of the return of the light. Mm-hmm. So I think that all of these sort of hinge on the same sort of experience, which is that we, that the light comes back during this time, and regardless of what spiritual religion or whatever that you come from. I know the indigenous people mostly celebrate a sort of Yule type of thing. They may not call it Yule. There's probably a name for each tribe, no doubt. So, and everybody gets to celebrate however they want, but almost everybody is celebrating. And I think even Kwanzaa is a celebration of light.
What I really like about Kwanzaa is it's a series of days with a value for each day. There's a focus to each day's celebration, which is often the way it is in my experience of when you go to Native American dances. Every round of a dance or a sweat has a purpose. It has an intention. It has a keyword that everyone is focusing on. So it could be community, could be our elders, the ancestors, the young ones, so many things we can all pray for, right? And everyone, I think we can all say we've all had an experience of the power of collective prayer. So when you're sweating together, dancing together, praying together with a shared intention, it's very powerful, especially when it's really left simple and each person can internalize it whatever way they want. I pray for the greatest good of all.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's pretty basic. Blessed be for the greatest good of all, and so it's a powerful time of year. I've always liked that my birthday is winter solstice. Many of you know I haven't been shy in sharing that, and and I've come to realize through astrology the potency of being born on a solstice, or very, very near it, very close to it, and realizing that I was born right after a full moon lunar eclipse. So the full moon is probably what set my mom into labor, because I'm pretty sure when they originally told her her expectancy date or whatever, my delivery was supposed to be Christmas Day, and she was like, "Hell no,
Oh, geez.
I don't want to be doing this on Christmas."
Especially with 6 kids already here.
Right? Because I'm the
Yeah.
7th kid. So,
Right.
yeah, haha.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
so learning later that it was probably the full moon, that probably my, tap, tap, I'm here. And
Probably, yeah.
yeah. And I'm in the very last degree of Sagittarius because I'm right on solstice, right?
And we don't always know why, like, they try to set a due date or whatever, but some kids are born early and some kids are born late. And I sometimes wonder about that because, like astrology and even twins, have some mild differences in their chart because they're different born, in different like minutes, because they're usually several minutes apart, sometimes more. Um, and so like everybody's chart is completely unique. And I've met people with my birthday, but I've never met anyone that has my birthday and same birth time.
Right.
Yeah, the closest person I've ever been able to find is Bernie Sanders, and he's much older than me. So,
You guys have the
hilarious.
same day?
Yeah, we have the same everything except for even a similar morning time, but except that it's,
Of course, the years are different. So
but it's
your
different years.
outer planets are
But
gonna
we're
be
both
different.
Scorpio risings and we're both Virgos.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, I think he has a slightly different moon than me, but yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, I once had there's a friend of, if I saw him today, I would still call him friend. I just haven't seen him for years and years and years, but we figured out that same day, same year. But he was born on the East Coast in the morning, and I was born on the West Coast at night.
Yeah, and
that changes a lot. That
changes
changes a lot.
Changes your rising sign usually. And what we learn in astrology is that the rising sign is pretty darn important.
Yeah.
So your time of birth is really important. So anyway, so those are the different holidays. And
You're one of a kind is what we're trying to say. Astrology helps us realize just how unique we all are.
so hopefully everyone had a nice Thanksgiving or harvest, whatever you celebrated, and hopefully you honored Indigenous people during that time. Friday is Friday afterwards, the so-called Black Friday, is also National Indigenous Heritage Day.
Good
So
to know.
I refuse to shop. I won't go shopping. It's madness
if I
out
do, it's on Amazon.
there. Exactly.
It involves grandchildren.
Yeah, it's not usually. Well, and I might just go there and order some, oat milk or something. All right.
All right,
So
let's get to the week because we got a big full week and we start off with a big full moon. And those of us who are Saggies, we recognize in astrology some real basic stuff here. That full moon, of course, is when the sun is opposite in the sky to the moon, right? The 180 degrees opposite side. New moon is when they're conjunct, right? So the full moon is going to be in the Sagittarius opposite sign, which is Gemini. So little basics, just reminders, because it helps us all to learn. Sagittarius is a mutable sign because mutable is the one that comes at the end of the season. So we literally begin a new season after solstice, right? With Capricorn. So the mutable, so at the beginning of the season is the cardinal, then it goes cardinal, fixed, mutable. And the mutables were changeable, that's part of what we're known for. And of course, Gemini is opposite of us. So we're fire, Gemini is air. And Gemini is also mutable. And the moon, when it's in Gemini, Gemini is ruled by Mercury. And so Mercury, as you can see, plays a really big role. And most of the sky is answering to Mercury with all of what you see on the screen there. And we're going to go
for right now. Yeah.
We'll go over it a little bit at a time. But that sun moon, you can call it an opposition, that makes a full moon, creates a T-square to Lilith in Virgo. Now that'll be more subtle for some people for sure, but I just wanted you to know that that's there because it creates a conversation. Let's put it that way. And Lilith is known for independence, independent thinking,
female sexuality.
Okay, you can always say that, and I'm always, what did I leave out? So yeah, so full moon in Gemini. So if any air signs, the other air signs are Libra and Aquarius, you'll feel this full moon in air. And air, of course, in astrology represents the mind and thinking and things that go along with that. Now, Gemini, a Gemini moon, the lovely part of a Gemini moon is that it's witty and it's charming. It can be very diplomatic, a great party host, really good party host, making sure everything's, the mixing is happening. Very amusing, can be very funny. The shadow side of Gemini can be disorganized, can be inconsistent, superficial, sometimes cunning or manipulative. But it's really what I want to emphasize about Gemini is that it's air, and so it's active mind. And they say that the Sag Gemini axis is all about quick thinking. It's very, very fast. The other thing Geminis have to be careful with is the truth. It's mutable to them. Because Gemini is the twins. There's multiple ways of looking at things. There's multiple ways of talking about something. So it can feel perfectly acceptable to them to speak in a way that somebody else might be like, wow.
You left that out. You just completely left that out.
Okay. So just being honest about that. And Mercury is the power player in the sky with the moon in Gemini, because Mercury is all about communication. And I've heard another astrologer say, and I think it was Nadia.
Probably.
I want to give props to whoever said it. Get your shopping done now. Get your stuff done now. Mercury is about to go retrograde. It will go retrograde on December 13th. So anything that is easy to wrap up, take care of, get it done, that you need to get it done and you need to get it done, get it done. Get it done. Don't fuck around. You have 2 weeks. I would not wait for the big purchases, anything big, contractual big purchases, cars, houses, whatever, for the week of Christmas.
Or big gifts for you.
Big gifts. Yeah. Big surprises. I don't know if that would go real well right now. So Gemini, we have a big full moon, and there's a chance to really think about things and pay attention to what you say, how you speak. And, I personally would think before you speak. That's definitely what I would try to say. Try to take a breath and realize you can react or you can respond. If you react, who's in the driver's seat? Because it's usually not the best part of us, that. And then when we take a breath, we can, is this important that I say that? Is that really a good idea right now? Maybe I can just let this go right now. Just let go. Just don't even lean into that. Just lean back. Don't even. Just may my words be a blessing and not a curse. Whatever you need to say to yourself.
I think that'd be fairly easy in the beginning of the week, because Mercury's going to sextile the South Node. So that's usually a good conversation. So we're going to let go of those older things, things that we came from. So we probably won't let things trigger us quite as much. We may not respond to triggers quite as intensely. And then Mercury is also trining the North Node. It's heading us where we're supposed to be. So if we're paying attention and following our feelings and our intuition, then we will be more likely to be heading towards what we're supposed to do. And let me just mention that, yeah, Mercury's entering its shadow during this time. Mercury will not go retrograde until December the 13th. And when I say that it's entering its shadow, what does that mean? That means this is the information, this is the time right now, whatever you're doing, you're probably going to review this during the Mercury retrograde. So whatever's happening between now and December 13th, so this is like late November after like Thanksgiving to December 13th, pay attention to what's going on. So if you're working on a project or something else is going on in your life, this is the shadow period of it. And then when Mercury goes retrograde, for some, you'll have to revisit it some reason. Okay, so just be prepared for that. This is how we prepare for that. I mean, there could still be surprises with Mercury retrograde, but I'm just saying. Okay, so for the most part, if you're working on a project or something, just be prepared to review it. So just get the basics done, and don't spend too much time trying to perfect it, because you'll go through it again when Mercury's retrograde.
So basically, mathematically what that means is that Mercury, right now it is sitting in this chart at 25 degrees, and it's going to go all the way up to Capricorn and go to 8 degrees, and then it's going to retrograde right back over where we are right now.
So you can kind of see where it is now. Mercury is that purple sort of, it kind of looks like the female symbol, except it has like a little half circle on the top of its head. And so, and it's in Sagittarius at 25 degrees in the 11th house. That is Mercury, that little purple symbol there.
And it's one of the fastest movers. And so of the planets, obviously the sun and the moon being faster, but this will be where it comes back to when it retrogrades. So whatever's going on now at the end of the retrograde period, this will be where it is again. So like Hollis said, if you know, okay, I'm just going to spend some time reviewing, making sure I've done all the things I need to do.
So for instance, I'm working on a project right now for a book. And so I'm like, okay, well, let's just get the things done. And then don't try to review now, just get the thing done and then review, and then have everybody review it in December. have people review it during Mercury retrograde. So that's literally, I'm planning for that Mercury retrograde. Instead of assuming that Mercury retrograde is going to be a bad time, I'm assuming it's a great time to get my book reviewed. So I'm going to try to get everything done before December 13th. And then when Mercury goes retrograde, I'll ask the people that I want to review it to review it. And I think that that's a very conscious way to approach Mercury retrograde, rather than people getting like fearful of things falling apart and bad things happening. It's kind of a silly way. It's not very astrological, and it's not very, it's not accurate, actually. So at this time, Mercury is square Neptune, which I find interesting. So, your vision might change a little bit. Right now it's squaring Neptune, so it might just take you a little bit of time. Neptune is retrograde, so it might take you a little bit of time to really express your dream or idea, but you can overcome it. You can change it. You can, you just have to maybe sit with it for a while. Like I was sitting with the book and I realized my program didn't save my changes, but then as I tried to save the changes and get things done, I started to realize I didn't even want to use that software. So, so I'm like, oh shit. Okay. So this is what I mean by just get it done. Okay. And now Venus is in opposition, I will say, to the North Node. And the reason I'm pointing that out is because Venus is very strong in the sky, other than the moon and Mercury, which are pretty strong right now. And Venus is pretty strong because it's in its rulership in Libra. And and it's in opposition to the North Node, along with the South Node. It's sort of coming into contact with the South Node. So you might be reviewing about where you came from, maybe financial things, also relationships, and anything else that has to do with Venus, which is usually material goods, relationships, and sometimes love and sex. So if those things and about where you came from and where you're headed. So it's an opposition. So you might feel like you need to balance the two, or that the opposition is maybe pulling you back to who you were, but then you're like, no, I want to go forward. I want to be who I am, not who I was. And so don't be afraid to change. Don't be afraid to do that, especially with Pluto doing its dance, because Pluto is part of a T square of that opposition, but it's pretty slight in the sky. But I want you to just be open to being who you are, not who you used to be.
I like that. Be who you are, not who you used to be.
Right.
Wise words there. I had a teacher that once said, when we evolve, when we level up, it's like we change our phone number. So if you're calling the old number, you're not going to get the new you.
Right.
You're only going to get the old, and nobody's home. Nobody's home anymore.
You know
what's
what?
about the new you?
You know when that's really fun, talking about, like, because the holidays and stuff, and you have to spend time with family. Several years ago, I don't talk to one of my brothers. I haven't talked to him in like 20 something years, except for just a couple years ago. Okay. And because he's racist. And so we got on a Zoom call, and he tried to trigger me in an old way. And I watched his face prepare to intentionally hurt my feelings or upset me. And I kind of just smiled and said, have a great holiday. And I got off the Zoom call. And I'm so the look of disappointment on his face, because I didn't react the way I usually reacted to that behavior
20 years ago.
20 years ago. And I'm just like, what an idiot. And so I think that that's priceless. I will say that is the greatest change. When you do change, don't, that's, it's also called the gray rock record method with narcissistic people. You can just give them a gray rock. He's definitely a narcissist. And so you just give him a gray rock thing where you don't react. Man, they are so disappointed. They are so disappointed.
Cut off the supply.
And once you cut off that supply, man, you just are no longer any fun for them. So they stop. They often either they'll just take distance from you, they'll just stop interacting with you, or they'll move away from you. This is a great way to deal with people like that. So for those of you that are dealing with people like that in your family, this is just a little tip. Even if you're reacting inside, don't show the narcissist.
Yeah.
Okay? Don't show them.
All right.
I'm sure we've all had some experiences like that. Anyway, the next day, Tuesday, November 28th, I was surprised to see this mystic rectangle.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a very powerful mystic rectangle, right? So mystic rectangles are almost exactly what they sound like. It's a powerful, spiritual, the universe has got you. I love Nadia's little saying, the universe is wise and loving. That's what I always think of when I see mystic rectangles.
And the thing about mystic rectangles is that they're easy. So like they're destined, but they're also easy. You don't have to work at it. Like a yod is also destined, but you usually it's kind of difficult, and then you eventually get it done. But with a mystic rectangle, it just sort of comes together. It just happens. And it will happen just by you being you, just by you following who you are. And with it involving the nodes, I'm going to say, again, including Venus, because Venus is right in there on that. Again, it falls back into being who you are and not who you were. And then with the moon in Gemini, I'm sure that probably brings some energy into it, right, Hawk?
Well, the moon starts to now wane, right? So we've had a full moon, and it's now going to start to shed until it's a new moon. So it's a waning void moon. So if the emotions felt super intense on Monday, it's not going to feel that intense on Tuesday. It's going to start to feel like things are falling into place. Wow, I didn't see that. That's really cool. Because you have a trine with Venus and a trine with Saturn. And those are big blessings. Those are nice flowing energies that things start to fall in place. If you're worried about something on Monday, Tuesday, it could just all fall into place. And you're just like, oh, that's great. Okay, great. Let's just go.
That works.
Just go with it. You know, that Tuesday has some really great go with it energy. So,
especially with Mercury there, even like, and I just want to say that some people that have a strong Mars in their chart, you may find yourself about a day ahead of time. So this could happen for you on Monday. So for me, it will probably happen on Monday because I'm a Scorpio rising, and Scorpio is ruled by Mars, and that tends to set my chart a little faster. So I tend to be a little bit faster. I'm surprised, Bright Hawk, that it doesn't always work that way for you. Like it happens to me, and then you'll be like, okay, that's what's going to happen to me tomorrow.
yeah, because I have Mars on my ascendant, but it's about 7 degrees off.
Okay, and maybe so it's Mercury, but the Mercury retrograde doesn't bother you so much, but that's because you have Mercury in retrograde.
Yeah.
So you have to really consider your chart.
Right.
And there's a thing on astro.com where you can find out who the ruler of your entire chart is.
Right.
So then you know that, oh, I'm a Mars-based chart or I'm a Pluto-based chart, okay?
And that's part of why we take time to talk about the signs every week and who is the ruler of that sign. So you start to understand, you know, the sky changes every day. And just like we have conversations every day, the planets are in conversations, and those configurations change constantly. And so it's really, that's the part of astrology that I just feel like is endlessly fascinating. Just about the time you think you understand some things, you're like, whoa.
Here's some more.
Exactly.
It's very deep. It's very deep.
Very deep. Yeah.
I think that's why I like using it for like death readings, because death is also a very intense time in a person's life, regardless of what side of it you're on, whether you're a surviving family member or a person passing. But there can be a lot. Astrology won't tell you when you're going to die. It might tell you how, maybe, or give you a feeling of how, but it won't tell you when. But when someone does die, there seems to be certain placements that happen and certain things that show up, and you can tell how a person felt in that moment, if they were more accepting or if they fought it or whatever. So, and now if you notice, the moon is across from Mercury. I noticed they're in opposition, and that's part of a T-square there, with Neptune.
Exactly. So maybe you're rethinking some of your dreams. Maybe you're rethinking how is that still important, because you're in a trine to Venus. So Venus is going to help you with your values. So in your morning meditation or in your consideration, you might take time to think about what Venus is helping you realize is what you really value, and are my dreams and visions and ideas, intentions about what I want to do aligned? Is that still valid? Like Hollis keeps saying, be who you are, not who you used to be. So sometimes we hold on to dreams way past what we know. We're not even really going for that anymore, but it's been the dream so long, so we keep saying it or doing it or not doing it, whatever. This is a great time to review that and let Neptune, Venus, and Saturn help you really embrace the mystic rectangle, embrace you know what really lights me up? I feel so good every time what is that? Fill it in for you. And you know, I feel like that's been a huge gift in my Saturn return. I feel really good when I'm doing art, expressing myself creatively, and giving back to others through our nonprofit. So my cup is full. I feel great because I'm doing the things that feel right and working at it, and to, you know, do it as well as I possibly can. So it's a good time for your dreams and your visions, and your the universe is holding you, and Tuesday has just got really good energy.
And remember, a T-square is all just about facing the challenge and finding balance in it. That's all. It
Yeah,
sounds like it's hard, but it's not. It's actually just a challenge that you have to overcome. T-squares are meant to be overcome. They're just a challenge that we need to overcome. So on this day, you might find a little bit of that with the moon.
accept it and harvest whatever it is that you know is
Mhm.
for the highest good for you.
And continue to pay attention because Mercury is still in its shadow. Okay. So what's going on with you? And the next day, on Wednesday, the 29th, the yod, I noticed the yod formed.
Very distinct. Isn't that just so super clear? Sometimes they're not that clear.
Well, that's why I tried to clean it up a little bit.
Yeah.
And you can see that the moon is over here with Vesta, which I'll let you talk about the moon in Cancer, but it's with Vesta, which are very spiritual, and so is Jupiter. So I'm like, wow, what's going on with the spirituality? And then also pointing at Mars, Ceres, and the Sun. Mars is really, and that's a lot of fire there in Sagittarius, Mars and the Sun in Sagittarius. It's a ton of fire. So I'm almost wondering about spirituality and religion, maybe, and maybe even it almost feels like something has to happen with spirituality, intuition, philosophy, and maybe the whole like idea of Christmas, and like because some people feel that Christmas kind of marches all over all the other holidays, and I kind of agree. I think it's a special time of year that should be kept for this time of year. Um, and I don't think we should be putting Christmas gifts on the shelf at Halloween time. You know, I just think it's ridiculous. And so, and I agree with those people. So there could be a little bit of like philosophy and what's right and what's not right about the holiday or other things, maybe the way you celebrate it. Maybe you'll be having a conversation with your parents. It could be a little bit challenging, but it is meant to happen. So just remember, this is what's going to push us forward onto our path. So even if it's difficult, just allow it to happen because it's really what's supposed to happen.
Yeah, these yods that we talk about, the finger of God, and the reason why those terms are used is because it really is energy that is this way. You're doing it now. And it's not a lot of choice in the matter. I mean, I suppose it's the metaphor is, are you going to go kicking and screaming, or are you going to jump on the surfboard and go, what? So
that's what the Sag is going to do.
That's going to say, what a ride. Hopefully, hopefully we're going
the Taurus is going to hold on to the pole and go, you can't make me. Okay.
unless they've been thinking about it for a long time and decide, oh, this is what I want to do, then get out of the bull's way, because as soon as they decide, man, they'll run you over if they have to. They're profound that way. You're like, golly, it took a while.
Yeah.
So again, the moon is waning, right? So it's come home. What do we do when we come home? So the moon is home in Cancer. It rules Cancer, and the moon in Cancer is about, it's emotional and it's watery and it's intuitive and it likes to take care. Cancers generally have a hard time understanding their feelings. They don't know they're happening. It's just a lack of awareness.
I always say that they don't know they're happening until the tears are falling
or coming right out of their mouth.
And then they're angry. Like, okay, oh, I guess I'm sad. These are the people that say, oh, I guess I'm pissed. I guess I'm sad. Okay. Those are usually, they have a strong Cancer placement, whether it be their sun rising or moon, or maybe Saturn or Mars.
Yeah.
They might have some or a lot of planets in Cancer. And so then that's the planet those are the people that say that often. And if you look at their sign, you can be like, oh, Okay.
And my experience with my father being a Cancer is that they are they're very intelligent. They have very quick minds. They're more sensitive than they realize. So they do not know or realize their emotions. And if you're empathic, intuitive, aware kind of person, and you're around a Cancer and you're like, well, it's really obvious you're feeling blah, blah. And they're like, no, I'm not. Are you sure?
And then they'll be like, okay, maybe I am.
So they're way more
They're
sensitive.
mutable in that
They're
way.
way more sensitive than they realize. And
I think they are a mutable sign.
No,
they're cardinal.
because
Okay.
they're beginning of summer, right?
Because they're super, and they're also super smart. Yeah. So they
Yeah.
usually start things.
Yeah. Cardinal
Mhm.
signs are great initiators. They're usually sharp. They see things, observe things. Well, you know what we should do? We should do this. But if they are challenged, what does this crab do? They bury, right? They go into the sand. You don't see me. I'm gone. So you don't want to scare them away, right? That's the thing about Cancers is you can literally scare them away and they'll go mute on you. And so this yod with the moon in Cancer and it's right conjunct Vesta. So Vesta is all about your spiritual values, right?
Yeah, it is.
We've been talking
It's about your spiritual dedication.
Spiritual values. I think this theme, we have a theme coming up.
And then of course there's Jupiter down there in Taurus who likes the way they've always done this spirituality. They like their philosophy. And now it's going into Mars, fire, who's going to want to change it. And the sun is trying to push us forward. And Ceres is trying to be nurturing, but it's fiery. So she'll add a piece of wood to the fire. So, so that's what I'm saying is like, this is very much about that. There might be some spiritual stuff coming up for people. Just because, Vesta's pretty much on top of the moon there. So, they're only 2 degrees apart. And then you got Ceres, Mars, and Sun all conjunct there. So, it just feels like it's probably going to be spiritual, but it's also going to involve like maybe fires or fiery energy. And with Venus in opposition to the North Node, I'm almost betting it's about like shopping and stuff, because that's what Venus is about, but it's in opposition to the North Node. And the North Node is like, well, this is the way we're going. And Venus is like, but I like my stuff. Okay. So this might be like, some people don't want to have a corporate, what do you want to call that? A Christmas where they buy a lot of stuff. A lot of people practice minimalism and they try not to buy a lot of stuff, or they try to focus the money that they're spending on small businesses or
having experiences
instead of stuff. So there could be like a oog about that, especially related to spirituality. And that's perfectly reasonable considering the times that we're in right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the next day, Thursday, November 30th, I thought it was interesting that, well, I'll let you talk about it, but Uranus is sextiling the moon.
Yes, exactly.
And so that's interesting. And then Saturn sextiling Mercury, which is pretty much about, speaking our system and speaking about the way we want to do things. And considering what just happened the day before, I can almost guess that it's going to be about wanting to do things maybe a little differently, maybe wanting to celebrate the holiday differently, maybe wanting to, I don't want to buy the kids $500 worth of toys. I only want to spend $50.
And here we go again. The theme just keeps popping up about spiritual values, because the moon, it's still in Cancer, but it's waning and it's void now. So it's not as strong as an intense, but it's in a square to to Venus. It's in a trine to Neptune. So again, Neptune's about what are your dreams, visions, and we're in a square to Venus. It also happens to be in a square to Chiron. So looking at that stuff could be healing, could lead you to a better way of doing it, because it also involves a square to the North Node. And that's our destiny, our future, our, our North Star, right?
Let's change things.
Let's change things. So I think you're hearing a theme. I'm seeing one. And
with Uranus sextiling the moon, it could feel sudden.
Yeah.
It could feel sudden to some parts of your family or other people that you're dealing with, or at work or wherever you're dealing with this sort of thing, or even within yourself. You might, especially with it in Cancer, Uranus could be very sudden and sort of like, okay, all of a sudden I want to change this.
And I just keep getting, and I keep dismissing it, but I keep getting it. So I'm just going to say it. For those of you who still have a mom and are in relationship with her, stuff could be coming up with her, with you and her and whatever. Because you've got Sirius, Mars, and the Sun all conjunct. Sirius represents motherhood. We keep talking about Venus. We yesterday's conjunction with Vesta. I just keep getting that if, I think the three of us, two of us don't have moms anymore, and are here, and you don't really have a relationship with yours.
I don't talk
but
to
if you have one and you're in relationship with, this, I just wouldn't be surprised if things are active. I don't want to say heated up, because I don't know which way it could go, but it could involve your mom. That's all I'm saying. And
yeah. Oftentimes for me, when series
holidays,
is in play,
I don't think that's really surprising for a lot of people.
And for those of us that are parents, so lacrosse, it might affect you. People that have mothered children, that's when sometimes series comes into play. Maybe we don't, we want to change things or do things differently or whatever it is. With Mars and the Sun, it could affect our motherhood. So when series comes into play, if it's not about your mother, it could be about your motherhood, or your experience with motherhood. Okay. So that's Thursday. And then Friday, I was like, oh my, this is a very fiery, emotional day.
So the first, I'm just going to say the moon moves into Leo. So of course, Leo is fire. It is fixed fire. And in Leo, the moon answers to the sun, because the sun is ruled by Leo. So the other thing you're going to notice is that it's opposite Pluto. That can be challenging. Oppositions are not easy, and Pluto is the planet of transformation, right? So on the positive, it's in a trine to Mars
and Ceres, because
they're close enough, but it's a square to Venus now. So here we go again. Venus is going to ask a question and expect something. And so, that's where we are.
And so when I looked at this, first of all, like Bright Hawk said, the moon is opposite Pluto. You can see that sort of red line that goes right down the middle of that yod. The yod is pointing from Mercury, which is in Capricorn. So that's a little bit of like, when we speak, we may not have a whole lot of emotion behind it, or our emotion is very sort of stern and cold. We're doing it this way. This is how it's happening. Okay. And so that can be very Capricornian way with Mercury and Capricorn.
It's very Saturn too.
It's just very like, it doesn't move. It's not that Capricorn can sometimes be a little bit stubborn, can sometimes be a little bit on the colder side. And then with Saturn in Pisces, it's sextiling it. So hopefully whoever's saying it will have a little bit of awareness of other people's emotions. And hopefully it won't set anyone off, but it's pointing to that moon in Leo. But moon in Leo is like, it's like throwing a firecracker into the fire. Boom. Okay. And that's about all it does. It's just boom, and that's it. And then so just be aware that the nice thing about Leo is it doesn't usually last very long, and they usually end up in nobility. Okay, so a moon in Leo can be very like loud and like you just exploded something, but then right after that, it ends up just being just noble and wanting to do the right thing. Okay. And so that's what I noticed with that yod there with the moon, like you were talking about, Brayhawk. But look, that opposition in the middle of it kind of looks like an arrow.
It does. Awesome. Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, we are in Sagittarius season. Okay. So ready, fire, aim. So it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and at the same time, Saturn is sextiling the moon. Which sextiling Mercury. So that could create a better awareness of people's emotions and trying to find a system that's cooperative and peaceful, because generally Pisces likes to search out peace. So, and it's a little bit of intensity, and that T-square is still going on with Venus and the North Node and Pluto. So this is still mastering some big things. And remember, whatever you're doing now, you'll be reviewing it during Mercury retrograde.
Right. And Mercury moves from Sagittarius to Capricorn. So again, that cool Capricorn ruled by Saturn. So the fact that it's in a sextile to Saturn is great. Good conversation pointing to the moon. So trying to check in with emotions. It almost feels like if something was said this might be the day where the apology gets made, where you can calmer heads prevail. Sorry if I was hot under the collar. I had just had something happen. Please forgive me.
Mm-hmm.
And if you could be on either side of that equation potentially. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's absolutely, yeah, absolutely. So, it's just a little bit of a yod. You're not going to really have a whole lot of choice in the matter. It's supposed to happen. So just be aware of it and just try to find your balance. Okay. On this day, the best thing to do is make sure you have a good morning practice. Make sure that you're just aware and awake and paying attention, and try not to react too harshly.
Yeah,
things.
the moon is in a trine to Mars, so take a walk. Do some exercise that fills your cup, makes
Mars
you feel
loves
good.
to exercise, so
Right, exactly. So with the trine to Mars and all that fire energy, I would exercise that energy in a good way.
yeah, take a walk.
Just make sure you do something.
Or run or whatever it is you do.
Yeah.
And okay, and so then the next day,
Yeah.
which is December 2nd, I was like, oh look, there's a grand trine. So it's actually with Chiron in the north, with Chiron, the moon, and the sun. So there.
So fire.
But manifestation, so, you'll finally get it done.
Yeah, fire is all about in manifestation. Putting it, the action has happened, and you are producing whatever it is that was, that you set your sights on. So it's a great manifestation energy. And literally, like, get out there, do whatever it is you got to get done, get it done, because this is a great do it day.
And we're still speaking in a way that's a little bit more sensitive,
right,
a little bit more aware, and hopefully peacekeeping. So we're able to.
Chiron is involved, so there's an opportunity to mend, heal.
We're gonna want to be talking about peace, maybe with the current crap going on in other countries right now, all the warring. We're gonna want to talk peace.
Hopefully. The one thing that I get a little concerned about, and it's just because it's Uranus and you just don't know what's going to happen, is that the moon is in a square to Uranus and to Jupiter for that matter. So, and Jupiter's still retrograde. So those are hard to predict. Uranus is the unpredictable showing up, so that's the one thing that puts a little bit of a be flexible. Maybe someone shows up. I don't know.
It's hard to say because it's in Taurus, so it's been going on for
Right.
So it's been going on for a while. It might just be
Yeah.
things keep happening, or they finally are bothering us. They've been happening for a while, but now they're bothering us, type of thing. Okay.
Well, with the trine to Mars, if you have to draw boundaries, you should be able to do it with no problem.
Hopefully. Yeah.
Hopefully.
So yeah, and with the Chiron involved in that grand trine, though, we should start moving towards things that are meant to be good in a good way, that help us in a good way, help us find the healing.
Grand
in our
trines should
community.
be really beautiful energy, and Sunday I think will be a little easier than Saturday on December 3rd.
Yeah, there's a bunch of there's a yod.
And a
So,
cradle. Have you noticed that yods and cradles frequently go together?
Yeah, maybe because of their way they're.
Yeah. So I always, when I see a cradle or mystic rectangle, I always think the universe has got you. It's okay, And I've been noticing that frequently when there's yods, there's usually a cradle. And there's that we're going this way.
This is the way we're going.
Just do it.
Cradles don't usually have a whole lot of choice either, I don't think.
Right.
But if you just follow along with it, it will just go. Like if you fight it, it will be more difficult. If you instead just try to go with it, it will be easier.
Yeah, because the moon in this case is in beautiful aspects. The moon is trining the north node. So literally, you are blessed in your destination of your destiny. It's trining Mercury. So maybe somebody says something really sweet to you. It's opposite Saturn. That can be a bit of a challenge. Saturn's oppositions are challenges for sure.
You mean the moon?
The moon is opposite Saturn. Do I have that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But all of that also equals a cradle. So it has a balance to it. If it was just one thing, it might feel really hard. But since it's in this more balanced cradle position, it's kind of like, okay, not everything's going to be perfect, but most of it's going to be, if I go with the flow here, if I pay attention to what the universe is asking me and I step up in a good way, good things will happen.
Right. And with the moon in Leo, with pulling from Pluto and Neptune, that makes me think about changing our visions or dreams or our ideas. And then with Saturn in the middle, it makes us a little bit more sensitive and peacekeeping. See how the middle arrow, we had an arrow before, now we have an arrow again, but now the arrow is actually about peace instead of about change. And so yeah, the arrow is more about peace. I'm pretty sure we're gonna at least talk about it. So and then with Pluto is squaring the south node, so Pluto is going to be saying, can we not do that anymore? We've been doing it that way for years and it doesn't work.
Good.
So that's Pluto square the south node.
Right.
And then Jupiter is in conjunct the Mars and Ceres up there in Sagittarius. It's in conjunct. This is a challenging aspect that can sometimes be hard to overcome. So you just want to be paying attention to that. And Jupiter is about philosophies and ideas. And so there's probably a little bit of like push and pull about change and keeping the peace. And I don't want to change. And so there's probably a lot of that kind of thing going on. So.
And Jupiter's still retrograde. So Jupiter, when it's direct, they talk about it being lucky and adding and benefic, and retrograde, be careful of excess, be careful of addiction, be careful of self-doubt.
Yeah.
trying to remember all of the things I was learning.
The
'Cause
other
this is
thing
my
about
ruler.
Jupiter retrograde is that you want to keep your intent, you want to be sure to speak your intention out loud or to get your intention straight in your head. So my
Mm,
intention is this. And so that would really help with when
mm,
Jupiter's retrograde. And it's been retrograde since like September. So but that's really what you want to do is you want to like have your intention in mind and then stay focused on it. It will be a little bit harder to do when Jupiter's in retrograde, but that's how you kind of counter Jupiter retrograde.
hmm That's great.
So,
So that I think is the week.
yep, and that's it. So, hopefully, um, you did enjoy that, and I know that for the people that watch on YouTube, it's actually a good amount. Um, that that having a visual is great. You can also watch on Spotify.
Listen.
And no, you can also watch.
Oh,
You can watch and listen on Spotify. And those are the most common places that I think were watched at this point. So anyway, so lacrosse, how did you have anything to add?
Yeah. We're still in the owl season. Really cool owls. I was thinking about the whole retrograde and preparing for the retrograde. And owls have two stomachs. They have your first stomach that liquefies the food, and whatever it can't liquefy goes into a second stomach. Then it's kind of digested, created a pellet, and it throws it up. And how does that identify with the retrograde? And basically, you're going to take things in and take things in. This is the time of taking it in and start separating what is digestible, what can I use, and what can be created into a pellet, and I just spit it back out. And this is going to be a really cool time to use that idea from the owl, you know. And with it being fiery, people tend to forget. They see the owls, they're really cool. They are birds of prey. They will kill and eat. They are not the nice, I get it, old wise owl, but in the same token, they're birds of prey, and they can be very fiery, very aggressive. They don't play. They're going to come and they're going to eat you up. But with that being said, if you are born in this season, be careful how you address people because you will eat them up. And some people can't handle that. They can't handle the aggression. And sometimes something as simple as the truth can come off as aggression because a lot of people don't like the truth either. So you're kind of caught in between the two. So, but yeah, take this time and use the two stomachs, digest it. If you can use it, let it liquefy. And while it's doing that, if you can't digest it quite, just put it to the other stomach. Think about it. Now I can't use this. Let's get rid of it. So I think that would be a good way to carry through this week because it looks like a pretty intense week, as far as preparing. Preparing is
Yeah,
intense, you don't just go on a trip and just say, okay, I'm throwing my toothbrush, my mouthwash, no underwear, no socks. You prepare. So kind of
hopefully.
take it as a trip. Yeah, hopefully. But kind of take it as a trip and take this time to prepare and figure out what is it you need to review and then release. Because it's not just reviewing, it's also releasing. So
Yeah.
wise words. I love
Yeah.
it. I
Lots
love
of
that
wisdom
metaphor.
there. Lots of great
you gotta
wisdom.
love the animals. They're great. They got so much to give us. They're
They
just
For
do.
real.
amazing.
They do. They do. We have had a lot of fox visit. So
Mm,
in our yard.
little tricksters.
Well, yeah, and
Beautiful, beautiful,
I
real
also did
bushy,
read that they
healthy.
were good luck
Oh yeah.
too, and some other things too. And I thought it was funny because just a couple of days before, a moose was right outside our door, like
Mhm.
scary close to our door.
Yeah.
But he was just trying, or she was trying to eat the aspen. So there's like a little aspen on our patio, and she just thought it was fine to just walk through our patio
And just
and my aspens, fine. They eat bark. Isn't that wild?
yeah.
And
Yeah.
anyway, so she's like looking in our house. That was a little strange. And then like a couple days, like I don't know, maybe a week later, there's these foxes everywhere. I see
Yeah.
foxes on the way home, foxes in the neighborhood, and a fox in our yard for several days. And the foxes just
I love it when she comes. So I'm like, hunt the voles,
Mhm.
because I see them in the front yard. I know that, they have a whole little patch, and the dogs, dig, but they're clearly not successful. So I'm always
Mhm.
like, go ahead,
Go get them.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was lucky to have my crows came back. I was so happy that my crows came back. And it's funny. I think people must think like something's up with my house because I throw all this extra food on the roof and then I hide and you literally see a whole murder of them come. And there's like about 30 crows all on my on my roof. And I know it's gotta freak people out because
it's a
they're
murder.
on. Yeah, it's a murder of crows. And then the one squirrel. I'm still
One.
trying to. Yeah, I got one squirrel. He's a torment to me. He'll literally eat their food and just sit there right in front of the window, like, yeah. And I said, okay, I got to learn something from you. I don't know what it is yet, but you're here to teach me a lesson. So
Squirrels are excellent savers.
yeah, yeah,
They're very good. They actually, when they look like they're eating, they're not always eating. They're
yeah. They're
putting it in their mouth and like storing it, and then they go back and like kind of store it in their place. So they
yeah,
don't do it. They just kind of
yeah,
store it in their mouth.
yeah,
Um, I'm not, squirrels usually yell at us because we have a dog.
yeah,
So when we're walking along, they yell at us.
yeah,
They
Give all
make
kinds of attitude.
they
yeah,
get
yeah, yeah.
crows, not sometimes, but not usually.
Oh,
The
they're
raven,
always yelling at me. They're like, "Hey, that's the guy who feeds us." I don't know. I'm always hearing them.
the ravens, and I always consider what animal is in my yard or
Yeah.
what animal I encounter if I drive past one. Um, I thought it was interesting. There was a couple of times right around when I stopped a medication for my heart and I seen a rabbit. Then a couple
Mm,
months later, I was questioning it and I seen a rabbit. And I was like, okay, thanks, Dad, because rabbits represent my father for me. And so like, I always, and I think when you say that kind of thing out loud, rabbits represent my father for me, then it tells the spirit that. So then every time they want to give you a sign, then, you might see a rabbit or encounter a rabbit. And then to see foxes, they always make me think of my son, actually, because that's his totem or
mm,
his spirit that he likes. And so when I see a fox, I often think about my son, but I also think about, like, what does this thing mean? And I have looked it up. You can always look up whatever animal it is and the spiritual meaning. I thought it was interesting that the moose was like looking in our door, and I was like, I hope good luck's look. It's a good omen
yeah,
door right now because that
yeah,
is a big ass moose. I mean, they're just so big.
yeah.
And then the fox, though, like you're like, okay, well, and we wished him well, we just thought he was cute. So I think I don't think as much of it as a trickster. I think there's actually only like two tribes that see it as a trickster. I think it's like the Lakota and then maybe another tribe.
Hmm.
But a lot of tribes actually see the fox as a blessing,
Oh
being
yeah.
smart, making good choices. Sometimes it's about choices, and so I try to see it that way
Right.
because I used to like see a fox and be like, oh, is someone tricking me, right?
I never take the trickster as that. Like I guess I should reiterate that. It's when I mean trickster, I think of mischievous. I think of not a bad,
Okay,
because crows are tricksters. What they're showing you, and the reason I say tricksters is because what you think they might be representing is not what they're representing. It could be a whole different thing. So it's
right.
not trickster as in they're deceiving you. Maybe they want you to do the work to see what it's more in depth. Like you could just see it and see a fox pass by and be like, oh, okay, it's just a fox. It means this, this, and that. And the fox is the trickster in the sense, no, I mean more. I have
Mhm.
more to give. Dig deeper. Why am I really here? What is my purpose? Not because they're deceiving you. They're just trying to make you do the work because that's what we should do with the animals. Do the work to find out what the lesson is deep, deep, deep down inside because we can stick with some typical top layer of what their meaning is. And sadly, that's where like a lot of these websites, you can go on a website and you can find, oh, the fox spiritual meaning is this, fox spiritual meaning is that. That's just superficial top layer. It's
Mhm.
about that's why I say when like with the crow, there is no way you can study a crow and just get a superficial meaning. It's impossible. There's a trickster, because if you don't do the work to dig deeper, then you're not going to really know what the in-depth purpose of what that animal is trying to teach you. So that's why when I look at fox are way deeper, way deeper than just this top surface of what they could be meaning. So, and that's why I always tell people, do the science, work on the science, learn the ins and outs of all the animals in the deepest ways that you can, because if that fox came, he means a lot more, way deeper thing than what he might be telling you, if that makes any sense.
Sure. Yeah. I appreciate looking at the science like we just did with the squirrel, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
He have to teach you, maybe he's supposed to teach you about saving shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know, but
maybe because I want to get a new house.
Right. Okay. So maybe that's what it's about. And so foxes, they're hunters. And I don't know a whole lot about them, but you can always watch a documentary about something and learn about the science of them. What do they do? And I know that foxes up here are they're pretty much opportunists. They pretty much they'll take dead. Sometimes if a mouse gets in my mouse trap, instead of like trying to dispose of it, I just throw it outside and the foxes will come through and eat it.
Yeah.
But like, well, somebody might as well eat this, and I don't really want a fox in my house.
Right.
So
and we're lucky we live in the woods that way,
Yeah.
Do that. But,
yeah, I mean, we live in the woods, so it's like just throw it out amongst the trees, and
it always disappears.
usually by the next day it's gone.
Oh yeah.
And the foxes are really beautiful. Now there was one fox that died because we found the foxtail in the road, and I was a little like, ooh, wonder what that's all about. And so there was a foxtail, but we assumed that it was attacked by a mountain lion. So that's Mother Nature, and that's the cycle of nature. Try to accept the cycle of nature, as hard as it is.
Yeah.
A beautiful little fox dying.
And he might be telling you there's opportunity to come. Maybe there's this big opportunity that's going to come, and it's going to be gifted to you like you gift to them.
Right.
That could be something big coming.
Yeah, sure. Know. Yeah. So, yeah, absolutely. This is why animal wisdom is super important.
Yes.
You have to be paying attention. Whatever animal is in your life, just pay attention. I think even if it's like a house cat, somebody else's house cat visiting your front porch or something, like then just look up about house cats and dogs and, whatever it is. Yeah, I agree. I agree with you, Lacrosse, that it's important to look at the science of it.
Well, I think it's beautiful that the universe speaks to us through so many different signs and symbols. And if you stay curious and do a little research, it's pretty amazing. It's like, wow, that really helps.
Yeah.
I asked the universe for a sign, and there it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I was gonna do a terrible joke. I said, "Who? No."
Oh my gosh. All right. So we'll move on to our our tarot reading.
Yeah.
And this is the Love is Love deck. And let me just pin it up. Okay. So this is the Love is Love deck, and this is a queer deck, and each one of these is a different piece of art by an LGBTQ artist. Okay. So all right. So these three cards are past, present, future. So this first one is this is a card about our celebration and what we have manifested in the world. What great things have we brought into the world? That's pretty much what this is about. This is about all the great things we've brought forward, and how those things have been celebrated, and how we have enjoyed them and celebrated them and shared them with our loved ones. That's pretty much what the Ten of Cups is. And that includes marriages, relationships. That includes any kind of manifestations, because you can see the woman is pregnant here. And of course, you know, it's very much about celebration. They look like they're at Pride or something, right? Okay. And there's a child in the background about what we've already manifested. And so that's what this is about. This is about celebrating what we've manifested and honoring what we've manifested. And this is in the here and now, which is the judgment card, which I find very interesting that there are three female looking, or three women, we'll just say women, at the bottom there, because you know they could be trans or something, but they're still women. Um, and there's three women there, or and a young girl, and I feel like they're pointing to the angel above. And the angel, of course, is playing music. And I think this is about judgment. And a lot of times, of course, there's judgment like in a religious sense, but there's also judgment even in mystical people, and then sometimes there's just judgment of someone else. But people like to say, "Oh, you shouldn't judge," but I'm like, well, you kind of have to judge because you have to decide what's good for you and what's not. So, you know, you have to judge. You have to say, is this a good, and that's judging. When you say, is this a good idea for me? Is this something I should be doing? And that's exactly what this card is about. This is about thinking about all the different things that we judge in our lives. And yeah, it's not very nice to judge someone because, you know, they have dark skin or because they're queer or whatever it is. I try not to judge people that are Christian, but I admit that that's I have a hard time with it. That they feel like the devil in sheep's clothing. So I'm sorry. But so anyway, so the judgment card, that's really what it's about. And I know that for me, hanging out with people that are Christians probably not good for my mental health. Um, and I also know that for me, skin color doesn't really have any meaning except that maybe about their roots. Okay. But it doesn't usually change who the person is. Okay. And so that's those are kinds of things that we need to think about and how we're judging things, people, and situations. Um, and all of those judgments matter. And as we go forward, we need to be thinking about what judgment we've made or haven't made. Sometimes I think people that don't judge, I'm kind of like, oh, is this why you just kind of fall into things and then wonder how you got there? And then you're upset that you're there because you didn't judge, because you didn't make the best choice for yourself. You just kind of did whatever came to you. So that's usually someone lacking boundaries. Okay, so if you find yourself in that and you're like, oh yeah, I guess I don't have very good boundaries. Yeah, so the two usually are related. And now this card here is the King of Wands. And this is very much about black and white going forward. Things are not usually black and white. There's always some gray, even in this image, right? But we tend to think of this image as black and white. And so this is a little bit about the gray, and this is also about, you know, being who we are, being our unique selves, because this is the King of Wands. But try not to think of things in the black and white sense, but often when we start to vision a dream or an idea or any kind of thing that we're trying to vision forward, we often have a black and white version of it. Like, this will happen or that will happen. It will either be this way or that way. And often there's usually something in between and it can be kind of gray. Most things are gray, honestly. Most things are kind of a mixture of what we thought would happen and things that didn't happen, things that we didn't expect would happen. Okay. And so it's usually kind of a mixture, and that's pretty much what this is to remind us about, to not always be so black and white. And the King of Wands is very set on his dreams, and he's doing it his way. And that's pretty much what the King of Wands is. The Wands is about dreams, ideas, and intentions. And the King of Wands is pretty much having it set, knowing where you're going, and this is what I'm doing. And that's pretty much the King of Wands. And that's why you see this man on a motorcycle. That kind of has a little bit of an attitude, or most people would take it as a bit of an attitude. And it looks like he's smoking a joint. Um, Honestly, that's what it looks like. But at the same time, you would be thinking, oh, this guy is just and he's in like, Utah or something back there. It's like, it looks like Utah, right? Um, so you tend to think, oh, he's just doing whatever he wants. He's riding free. He's doing it his way. And maybe that's what you need to do. Maybe because you haven't done it your way in a long time and you need to step up for yourself. There is times for that to happen. I've definitely had to do it. And eventually you decide, how am I going to do this? And hopefully you'll be able to find the gray areas. Sometimes you have to be black and white in order to find the gray. Okay. So that's pretty much what I'm saying. So remember to celebrate where you came from, celebrate what's happened in the past, honor those manifestations, honor the celebrations you've had in the last, year, or maybe over the summer or something, and recognize what judgments you might be making about people, places, or things, or not making. And so, just be aware of how important judgment is, how we can go overboard with it, how it needs a balance. We need to have some judgment, but we need to try not to judge people for other things, okay? And then also going forward, remember that sometimes you need to be black and white in order to find the gray, okay? And you need to be who you are. You need to stand in your power. You need to follow your intentions, dreams, and visions, okay? So that's pretty much the reading today.
Wow. Thank
A
you.
lot. It's a very thought-provoking week.
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely a lot to think about.
Yeah, and I think it probably depends on, of course, astrology always depends on your chart and your how things are aligned in your own chart. So I encourage you to look at the transits. If you're learning astrology, that's actually a really great way, is to just, even if you're just using free software, just look at the transits every day. Just look and see, where are they at? Where's the moon? Oh, the moon is on my moon, and boy, am I having a fiery day. Okay. And so, just be aware of how things affect you. And that's a really great way to teach yourself astrology. It's actually, that's the number one recommendation, actually, to studying. I read a book about predictive astrology. Well, I started reading it, haven't finished it yet, but one of the suggestions that they make is to make sure that you do the transits each day, at least the planets. You don't have to do all the asteroids and all that. Just do the planets and the basic aspects, and just look at the major aspects and the major changes to your day-to-day, and keep a little journal, or just keep note of, okay, when Saturn squares my sun, wow. Okay. So, things like that. Okay.
All right, everybody. I hope you have a great week. Blessings of the full moon. And hopefully the full moon, it starts off kind of intense. Sometimes full moons are. I know sometimes they affect my sleep, but we're all in this together, and we wish you all the very, very best.
All right, my friends, make sure you subscribe, like, comment, let us know what's going on in your life. How do these yods and whatnot this week play out in your life? We'd love to hear about it. All right.
Thanks so much. Have a good one.
Thank you for listening to this week's Soulstrology, and subscribing, liking, sharing, and reviewing. We hope you enjoy this dose of Soulstrology and encourage you to embrace the week ahead with an open mind and heart, so that you may integrate the deepest of lessons from the stars. Take a moment to step outside and honor the planets, stars, and moon in the sky with your heart. Integrate the messages that resonate and leave the rest for someone else. We deeply appreciate each and every one of you. Always remember that you are a perfectly unique human with an exclusive star map of your destiny, your soul purpose, and your heart's desire. Thank you again for tuning in to Rainbow Soul.